Hey, what's going on, everyone? Wow, wow, wee, wow. What a long time it's been since the last video that was uploaded on this channel. I've been absolutely just like everyone out there, busy, right? Swamped. Um, just more and more sessions. Like it's amazing how um, things can build and build, and I do a lot of private sessions now, so most of my days I'm doing sessions, and to be honest, like every session is really interesting and unique, and sort of like doing a video. I've mentioned this before, but it is very similar. Anyway, I'm not going to ramble on. um, it's been a while, and I have so many, so many things that I've noted that I want to share, and I think is important for all of us to understand. And um, so I have a long list of videos pending, and I guess in this one, I'm going to sort of like based on the general, I would say, biggest difficulties I see across all the people that I work with, pretty much in every single session, is this issue of dependency. You know, when we become dependent on something or on someone, usually that sense of dependency is ultimately linked to survival. So you could take it one step back and be like, well, you know, that usually that dependency is linked to happiness, what makes you feel good. And yes, it's linked to survival. What usually feels good, genetically, biologically, you know, we are drawn to more than anything to reproduce. So the chemicals that are alive and activated in our mind, in our body, when we are sexually attracted or turned on, it's very difficult to compete with those chemical reactions, the stimulation created by that. So for everyone out there who has been struggling with dependency, let's say sexual dependency, depending on, let's say, sex or porn or relationships or just texting or being around the opposite sex or hearing from the opposite sex or just interacting with the opposite sex, flirting. It could just be communicating. It can be working with someone from the opposite sex. It can be in any capacity. The natural pull that a man and a woman have towards each other is the strongest pull within us that exists. Even beyond the the great feeling and stimulation, excitement, I guess you can say the endorphins that are released when we eat are not as strong as the endorphins released when it comes to reproduction, sex, attraction, finding a mate, being connected with the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever, you know. It's just mating, right? Mating is what we're talking about here. And I found that interesting. You know, not long ago was watching an interesting talk about how that is the strongest impulse we have, even stronger than the endorphins released from food. So it's almost like your body, if it had one last thing to do, if it had a little energy left, is it going to reserve that energy to fight, to protect this body, to eat, to nourish this body, or is it going to use that little amount of energy left to reproduce? And it's going to be reproduction. So even if our body had a little energy left and you're about to, let's say, die, and the last thing it could do is reproduce, eat, or fight. It's going to save that energy for reproduction, because that's the most important thing of all for our survival as a species, and just, your family, your line, your lineage. So why am I talking about all this? Why am I bringing this up so much? Well, it is because of that fact that our dependency on porn, on sex, on relationships, on, why breakups are so hard. That whole conversation exists as a huge, let's say, challenge, or can be it can be something that gets in your way in life, right? It exists for a reason, so don't be too hard on yourselves. If you have porn addiction, if you have sex addiction, if you have love addiction, if you have, dependency on, you've got to like watch porn, or you've got to like pleasure yourself, or you've got to be intimate. You need sex. Like, if all these things, if you need all of them to be happy and to like feel okay and to feel, if you're just texting or connecting with the opposite, if you need these things, if you have a strong dependency on these things, what I want to say is that, hey, that's okay. It's normal. It's natural. It is. It's our strongest biological urge. And yes, is are we being abused by these companies, like by these dating apps, by porn sites, by, I mean, all the industries and everything out there that make money, that profit off of our attention being put on those things? Of course, yes. And it is our responsibility, our own personal responsibility, to keep our dependencies and our urges in check. Otherwise we start, the definition of an addiction, the definition of, over-dependency or addiction is when that addiction is running your life. When you wind up being 15 minutes late to everything because you're a porn addict, or when you can't do anything else other than think about sex, or think about, your relationship, or, life is, if we're comparing it to a pizza, it's got lots of slices, lots of things involved. Sex is one, relationships is one, but then there's like 80% more left. There's your physical health, there's sports, there's hobbies, there's fun activities, there's traveling, there's work, there's creating, whether it's music, art, a business, writing a book. Then there's your friends, then there's your family. The list is going to be different for everyone, but for every single person, they're going to have different slices to their life. What dependency describes is when all those slices, or the majority of those slices, become one thing. When your entire life becomes the person you're in a relationship with, or your entire life becomes porn. Like from the morning, first thing in the morning you're thinking of is girls or guys or sex or porn, right all the way up until the end of the day. It can be also other things. It can be money, that you wake up, the first thing you think about is money, right until you go to bed. Or it can be jiu-jitsu, or it could be kickboxing, or it could be writing your book. It can be anything. The problem isn't addiction. The problem is, what are you addicted to? There are healthy addictions. There are healthy distractions. There are necessary dependencies. We're dependent on certain things that are necessary, like food, water, air. And then you can argue, as it goes down the scale of, since we're living in a new world now where everything is different and it's not like how it was 1,000 years ago, you can argue now whether or not it's a necessary dependency to be thinking and consumed with relationships. Nowadays, there's a lot of people out there who are enjoying singlehood and finding that they're able to be a lot happier, healthier, nimble in life. And then there's people that are in relationships and they're happy too, and they're able to um, move forward and do all the things that they enjoy. And at the end of the day, there are no rights and no wrongs. There are no rules. It's just all about what are your goals? Are you able to achieve your goals? If you wake up every morning and your goal is to how many porn sites can you visit in your lifetime? Well, hey, if that's your goal, then fine. But I guarantee you that most people's goals are going to be things like to be healthier, to be happier, to be financially comfortable and stable, to be able to be in a healthy relationship, a healthy, long-lasting relationship. Some people's goals are to start a business, to help other people, to start a school, or whatever it is. So those are the types of goals that are healthier goals. And then it's up to us to identify the unhealthy dependencies, the unhealthy addictions that we have that are stifling us, that are hindering, that are blocking our path, that are obstacles for us to reach those goals. Because a lot of us in our mind, we put these goals in the back of our mind as if it's something that we'll one day get to when we are, I don't know, 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 or whenever. But the funny thing is about goals is that there's no such thing as getting to the end. I'm sure that you've all heard, or many of you have heard that saying that, the journey is the destination. It sounds cheesy. It's the truth, though. It's the journey. When I set competitions or fights, if I agree that I'm going to have a fight, or I agree that I'm going to go and sign up for a tournament or competition, the end competition, the fight, the contests, they're great, and yes, they are important, but what's more important is what it does to my life when I set a goal 3 months in advance. A lot of you out there who I have been coaching privately will have heard me say this a lot, that, hey, the point of doing that, more so than anything else, is that for the next 3 months now, my mind is going to be focused on this goal, this event, this challenge. And it's going to affect the way I train. Had I not signed up for this competition or a fight, I'd go into the gym maybe every day and I'd kind of be like, what am I really here for? Am I just doing this for my health, But when I know that I have a fight or a competition in a couple of months, I go in and I train at a very different level of intensity. I watch my diet, I'm a lot more focused. And that 3 months, my life improves. I push the boundaries, I grow physically, I grow mentally, I grow. That's the important word, is there's growth. So setting goals for ourselves isn't about, oh, when I'm 70, I'm going to do this one day. It's about get on with it now. List all your goals and start going after them, because there's going to be more goals after that, after you hit those goals that you have. And a lot of us, we wind up, I don't know if the word is being complacent, but a lot of us, we wind up with a big problem I see, or a big challenge I see with a lot of people I work with, is not that they are unable of accomplishing, whatever challenge they're dealing with, whether it's getting over a breakup or, uh, reaching their goals, It's not that they are unable or incapable of doing that. That's not the problem. If they were incapable and unable of doing those things, I think that there would be a much different response out of those people. They would wake up like crazy. They'd be in the library reading, they'd be training, they'd be working in a very different way. Usually it's people that hit rock bottom or are extremely hungry that wind up activating and just propelling, like just just winding up in a different zone to everyone else. And it's out of that, it's like a fear that drives them, like this hunger. And that's the case of a good driver. But the problem I see with a lot of the people that I work with, or just people in general, and I also experience this myself, is when you know you're able to do something, when you know that you're able to accomplish the goals that you've set, when you know that, oh, you know what, I will be able to do this, I will be able to get over my ex, or I will be able to like make a lot of money someday, or I will be able to fix my health, you know that's where the problem usually lies, because when people secretly and deep down in their heart know that they'll be able to like transform their health when they decide, or quit smoking when they decide, or start going to the gym when they decide, or get over a dependency when they decide, when deep inside secretly you know that you're able to do that, is when most people don't do anything about it, and they just, oh, it's okay, I'll be able to quit the porn, or I'll be able to quit the cigarettes, or I'll be able to get in shape, you know? And then you don't do anything about it. It's kind of like you're sitting on a little island iceberg that's just shrinking and shrinking and cracking, and you've got your raft. The raft isn't inflated, but you've got the raft, and it's right there, and you're like, oh, it's okay, I have my raft, and when this ice starts to crack, and there is really like, I'm going to wait until the last minute, and then I'm going to start blowing up my raft and get out of there. Well, yes, it's true. A lot of us, we are amazing. We're super powerful, and we are able to do those changes when we finally wake up and when we finally decide. In my life, that's already happened, because when we go through difficulty, which is one of the blessings of going through difficulty, of struggling, there's so many rewards and gifts that come with struggle, with suffering. And one of them is that it wakes you up. You realize you don't want to live in that place. You realize that darkness, as I say in a lot of my videos, is overrated. It's something a wise person once told me. Darkness is overrated. And it's true. But yet, so many of us, we hug the darkness like it's a warm blanket, and we're comfortable in there, and we learn to love it, and we enjoy feeling sorry for our life and ourselves and all of this. And that can become a dependency too. Now, when we talk about dependencies, I've talked about it a lot in a lot of my videos. How do we develop them? Well, first of all, we have, like, as I was talking about earlier in the video, we have instinctual pulls towards certain things. And there's that reward system in our mind. We get endorphins released when we exercise, when we eat, when we have sex, or when we're attracted. We get stimulated. Endorphins are released even nowadays when our phone just rings or we get a notification, right? It's the same thing. We're getting that reward. We're associating that vibration or the sound, the ping, we're associating with something a lot more primal and important, which is our mate, or reproduction, or survival, by being more popular, by being liked. The more popular, the more likes, the more followers you have, the more your sense of security is enhanced, your confidence is enhanced. Yet a lot of that sense is fake. It's not real likes. It's just virtual, right? It's all virtual. So anyway, it's a deep, deep, deep conversation, and for now, I just wanted to focus on dependency. I want to talk about a few types of dependency before this video is done. Um, I want to talk about, and maybe I'll make a separate video on this issue, but I want to talk about financial dependency, emotional dependency, sexual dependency. So financial dependency is one that I think we will all be hearing about more and more in the years to come. I just have been working with a married couple dealing with this. It's extremely, sadly, very common. And what is financial dependency? Financial dependency is when you're in a relationship where one person has that financial power, uses that financial power to turn the other person into a slave, essentially, making that other person dependent on them, and then using their financial power to control, to bully, to abuse, to harass. And it's sad. It's sad because any form of using power to control, to bully, to enslave someone else, to get love, which is really the ultimate goal, is, let's say there's someone who makes a lot of money, has a great income, has a great job, is married to someone who is dependent on that person financially. Let's say has decided to be to look after the home, the family, to manage the house, to manage to one of the hardest jobs on earth, to raise children, right? Now that person trusts in their partner, to provide, to pay the bills and create, generate income. But then there can be that financial dependency that will develop, which is why we always, on this channel, what are we always talking about? Self-love, don't be over-dependent. Self-love means respect yourself, take care of yourself, not just physically love yourself, not just physically go get massages, not just physically eat well, do sports, but also take care of your finances. Have some sort of an income. Don't ever be too overly dependent on others, because when we become overly dependent on anyone or anything, whether it's sexually or for any reason financially, we become a slave. You'll become a slave. You'll become, and over time, your self-confidence can get chipped away, your self-esteem, you'll lose your voice, you'll lose your strength, which is what abusive people want to do. They want to control. They want to get someone who will always be theirs. It's a form of slavery. It is slavery. And financial abuse is something we don't really hear about right now, but I'm sure in a few years, now we're hearing more and more finally about sexual harassment, sexual abuse, when you use your position of power to abuse someone sexually, and get what you want from them because you're actually, you're forcing them, you're abusing them, It's not voluntary. It's, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. Abuse, is usually when fear is used to control someone. So when we're talking about financial abuse, I'll paint a quick picture. It will be like, hey, don't worry, I'll pay your gas from now on. Really? You're going to pay my gas? Yeah, I'll pay your gas. I got it. Don't worry about it. Or, I'm also going to pay your monthly rent too. How about that? Yes, wow, amazing. And that's how it begins. So, I'm not saying, hey, don't, go out in the world and be like fearful of what people's agendas are, if they're being giving, like, oh, there has to be. No. There's a lot of wonderful giving people out there. And we have to like receive and we have to also give, right? But also just be very aware that if someone is giving and giving and giving and saying, oh, I'll pay for your food, I'll pay for your rent, I'll pay for this and all this, and then just be aware of how dependent you're becoming on that person. Is it just one slice of your pizza pie, or are you like now your whole life is dependent? Like, oh man, I depend on this person for my food, for my gas, for my rent. Because if you become over dependent, there's a lot of, I guess, the way to describe them is a lot of like very lonely, toxic people out there who will prey on people. They will use their money to enslave someone else. And then they'll say, well, if you want your bills paid, well, you're going to have to do this and do that. And then they feel like they can get away with treating someone like a subhuman. They feel more important, more powerful, and they can bully, intimidate. And it's a form of, it's mental abuse. It can become manifest physically, and it should not be tolerated. Not on this in this day and age. So if there's women out there who are victims or being subjected to financial abuse, it's important you start to become aware and awake of this and realize your part in that is don't allow yourself to become too dependent on someone else, whether it's a man or another woman you're in a relationship with, or whoever. We've got to be strong in ourselves. That's what self-love is all about. Or you could be a man who's being financially bullied and abused or controlled. All right, it works both ways. Generally, though, it is mostly men who are doing this, and but women also have their own ways. There's emotional abuse. It's when someone's controlling you emotionally. Maybe you'll feel like guilty. They can control you through guilt. They can, manipulate you by making you feel sorry for them, or they can manipulate you emotionally. So we all have to become more and more aware of the way in which we can abuse people and impose toxic, unhealthy ways of power on others to control them. Right? So sex is also another tool that can be used abusively to control. You can get people, usually this is the other way around, not so much men, but women who use it in relationships, and it winds up hurting the women and the man. Like it's a just as a man would use financial power to abuse and enslave and manipulate and control someone, just as that would hurt the man ultimately by destroying the relationship, keeping that person, the man would wind up with terrible habits and toxic behavior and would be more unattractive and just will find that once his relationships dissolve and get ruined, that he'll be alone and will have difficulty, creating relationships because he's created a habit out of controlling. Love is the one thing you can just never take. It has to be given to you, which is why it's one of the most powerful things of all. You can't take it. You can't buy it. It has to be given to you. And it's one of the most powerful gifts that can be given to anyone. When you are loved, genuinely loved, the power associated with that is unequaled, unparalleled. And it's not something that you can buy. It's something that has to be given, which is why so many people out there have difficulty with breakups, because once someone will not give them that love, it can drive them crazy because they know that there's no way they can get it. They can't buy it. They can't use their muscle or power. It's something that just has to come. And how does it come? It comes out of you being loving, out of you being kind, out of you being loving and kind to yourself, first and foremost. by loving yourself. What does that mean? It's not some hippie nonsense I'm talking about. It means read good books. It means surround yourself with smart people, intelligent people, kind people, people who are successful in the things that you're interested in becoming more successful at. Whether if you're interested to have a great, healthy, long-lasting relationship, well, surround yourself with people who are in great, long-lasting relationships. You don't even have to ask them for advice. Just surround yourself with them, and their behavior will rub off on you. You'll see the way in which they behave. If you want to become rich, if money is something important, surround yourself with people who are wealthier and rich. And you'll realize they're not what you think. A lot of the richest, wealthiest people are very humble, they're very kind, they are incredible listeners, they work very hard, they're very open-minded. Not all, but the majority, the vast majority are this way. And then you'll realize. But if you're going to be learning only from just watching, social media and what people want you to see, well, you're going to get an incomplete, partial, path, to success. So as I said, I really want to cover those dependencies. So we covered sexual dependency, where someone can use sex to control someone. That happens a lot. A lot of the people I work with, the clients I work with, especially men, are finding that they become dependent on their relationships, on their exes, on their present relationships, or even their future relationships, what they look for in a person. It all becomes about sex, right? And they will give up, even knowingly, a healthy relationship just to get the sex. And what I mean by that is they will go into a relationship that they know is not a good relationship. This person's probably cheating. This person cannot be trusted. This person could be dishonest. This person has a toxic, pattern of behavior. But this person's so hot, and the sex would be amazing. And it's not only about sex. It goes much deeper. It's about, well, if I'm with this hot person, well, how does this person make me feel about myself? Well, I must be pretty damn something amazing myself if I can be with someone like that. Whereas that person is probably with you for the wrong reasons too, right? So usually if you're in a relationship because of the sex, the other person's probably in the relationship with you because of the money. Okay? Not always like that, but that's usually how it is. Right? So some of you out there might be thinking, damn, or some of you might be thinking, well, yeah, what's wrong with that? Well, there's not, if you go into our roots, there's nothing wrong with there being a provider, and women, females, or men being attractive. There can be an attractive one in the relationship, and then there can be the provider. It's okay, that exists in nature. But I am coaching pretty much at least once a day, and the people that I'm seeing, the experiences I'm seeing, is that doesn't last. That type of relationship doesn't last. The relationships that last are ones where people they have their goals, they're taking care of themselves, not in a selfish way, but they're looking after their sports, they're taking care of their diets, and they're facing in the same direction. They're kind of like on the same path, and they keep seeing each other. Like, oh, hey, I keep seeing you at jiu-jitsu, or I keep seeing you at the same restaurant, or the same coffee shop, or I keep seeing, you're just on the same similar path. And you keep seeing each other, and then eventually, if people like that wind up being in relationships with each other, their goals, their destinations are similar. So those relationships tend to like last a lot longer. There's a lot less pressure. There's a lot less dependency and expectation. It's not like, oh, I'm depending on you to help me get to my goals. No, I'm on my path to my goals, and you're also on the similar path. So we get to see each other a lot on our journey. Again, every little one of these little points can go into like a 5 hour video. So I'm just, kind of going through a lot of things that have been coming up on the radar recently. Be aware of dependency. Be aware of how dependent you are on certain things. And then every day work a little harder to be more independent. Now, like everything, balance is the most important word to always remember. Balance, balance. Write balance down around you. You know, balance is very important. You don't want to be too independent where you're just on your own and you don't need anyone and you don't need anything, and you're just pretty much, you could wind up becoming a excuse me, I can't remember the name, but like could wind up being like at home all day long, just getting things delivered by Amazon, and you don't need anyone, you don't need anything. And hey, if you're happy and okay like that, I mean, I have nothing wrong with that personally. But I think balance is a much healthier way to live. You don't want to be too independent, and you don't want to be, look at that, what is that there? Right, wait, this finger, there's a tail right there. It's a cat's tail. Pishy, is that your tail? Every time I say her name, she can't resist move her tail around. Pishy, pishy, pish, pishy. Oh, tail's coming over here. Anyway, so be aware of how dependent you are on anything, on money, on your friends, on your family, on your relationship, on sex, on alcohol, on going out and partying, on YouTube, on everything. Keep an eye out on that pizza. Make sure it's diverse with a lot of things. Sports, massages, going out for food. Food is a huge part. Sleep is an important part. I mean, our lives are so full and rich. Traveling is important. Nature is important. So many things make up who you are. So don't let it all become one or two things. Because then when those one or two things should someday, maybe, God forbid, disappear, then that's when you feel like, I feel like I'm dying, my whole world is ending, because that person or that thing, you leaned on them too much. So yes, there's this mental feeling of dying. There's this mental feeling of everything is, of panic, and but everything's going to be fine. Everything will be fine. And it's just once you realize that, oh, I'm still okay, everything's fine, then your brain, your body starts to learn and realize, oh, everything's okay. That fear, that was all just like an illusion. It was just fear. Anyway, so I hope you guys will forgive the lack of updates and videos. I hope your 2018 is off to an amazing start. And I hope you guys are just taking one day at a time, 1 week at a time. Count your progress in weeks, not in days. Just make sure that you are improving a little bit at whatever it is, body, mind, or beyond. Just a little every day. Throwing away things you don't need, letting go of things you don't need, whether it's clothes or foods that aren't serving you. Even it could be relationships. You don't have to throw them away or end them, but create more distance between, and then move closer, to things that are serving, that are helping you. Move closer to those people that do uplift you, that energize you, that inspire you. Move closer to those foods that make you stronger and healthier. Move closer to the movies, the videos, the YouTube channels, the music. On the topic of music, so a lot of people have been asking me about what music I listen to. And I love listening to a lot of, I guess, uplifting. I listen to all kinds of stuff. So I have recently made my Spotify um, personal playlist. I've made it public. If anybody would like to check it out and see what I listen to pretty much almost every day. It's called Mouth of the Ape, and I've made another one. It's called Ultimate Ape, which is a little bit more refined. But Mouth of the Ape has a lot of stuff in there, all kinds of stuff. So you guys are free to go and check that out if you want, and if you have Spotify, and check it out. All right. Other than that, stay focused. Understand that we have dependencies and addictions naturally for a reason, but yes, they are being manipulated by some greedy people out there in the porn industry and even the dating apps, so you've got to be careful of them. And do whatever it takes to make sure that the meat and the bulk and the chunk, the biggest chunk of your attention is going to be on things that are helping you grow and move forward. So set goals. If you currently don't have goals, set some goals for the next 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, whether it's to do a marathon or to go to a TED Talks or to write a book or whatever. There's a few lists that are very important that you should memorize. And the way you get to the point of actually memorizing them is you first have to write them down, right? So the couple of these lists, I talk about them a lot to the people I work with privately. So a lot of those people will be familiar with these lists. But first of all, write a list of at least 20 reasons why it's awesome to be you, right? If you're going through a breakup or a difficulty or trying to release yourself from a dependency or addiction, whether it's a person or a thing, well, then write a list of 20 reasons why it sucks to be your ex, or why it sucks to be in that relationship with porn or alcohol or partying or whatever it is that's holding you back in life. Write a list of 20 reasons why that life sucks. So first list of 20, why it's awesome to be you. Second list of 20, why that relationship you are trying to break sucks. Why it sucks to be in that relationship. Then write a list of at least 10 goals, life goals. It can be long-term life goals. It can be short-term life goals. It can be that I'm going to, write a book. I'm going to create a foundation one day. I'm going to start a new business, or I'm going to start a YouTube channel, or I'm going to start jiu-jitsu. It can be anything, any goals, anything that gets your attention onto the future, gets you planning and thinking, well, how do I accomplish that goal? What steps do I need to take, right? And for now, just make sure that those why it's awesome to be who you are, why it sucks to be in that relationship with whatever it is that's holding you back, what are your life goals, and then probably the most important goal list of all for me, and I coach this a lot, I teach this a lot, is make a long list. Mine's probably about 50 to 70 things on there. I haven't memorized it. I keep adding to it, but I know most of the things on there. And that is, write a list of all the things, the activities, whatever it is, the things in life that uplift you, that strengthen you, that make you feel better. And for me, like I can tell you, like it's going to be things like weird things. It's going to be like going for a walk, going for a drive, training jiu-jitsu, meditating, listening to uplifting talks or lectures, or reading great books, or going for a run, doing a cold shower. It's kind of like your super top secret list of things to make you feel better when you feel like shit or just in general. And I go into this list all the time and I quickly find something. Yes, I can do that. That's going to make me feel stronger, motivated, better. I have things on this list like take a cold shower. I have things on this list like give my mom a call, have a, talk to my mom or talk to some family. I have all kinds of things on this list, like, go to this restaurant that I love, or, hang out with this person, or do these activities with my loved ones or my relationship, my family. So it comes down to what the Greeks used to preach and believe so much, which is know thyself. We all think we know ourselves, but you don't really until you start writing all these things down. Write down a list of everything that makes you feel great in life, and you'll be shocked. You'll be like, wow, there's a lot of things here. And keep that list close by. All right, everybody, sending everybody out there all the very best. And yeah, more videos to come. Glad I was able to get around to doing this. Adios for now.